Well, hello everybody. Hope we're live. My little ticker talker says we're live. And I'm checking it on YouTube to see if we are live. So there is a little bit of a delay, but welcome to the Minutes with Milo show. And tonight I hope to be uninterrupted by the silly router. And so we're going to believe this is going to be smooth sailing the whole time. We're not going to lose connection. It's going to be perfect. All right. So, Minutes with Milo show. This is the 98th episode show, whatever you want to say. And I'm going to do a first. I've never done a book review that I can think of. So, I want to do one tonight. And the reason being is I listened to a book on audiobooks on Spotify. Now, I really like to read, but, that only usually happens when I'm on vacation. I pick a couple of books, I'll just, chill out and read and, try to do really family stuff, but nothing much in the work area. So, I get to read. Excuse me, but when I'm at home, I thought, well, instead of listening to the podcast, I've got a couple of podcasts to listen to. I thought I'd try an audiobook. So I was on Spotify, where I get most of my music and podcasts and stuff like that. In fact, you can search the Minutes with Milo on Spotify and listen to my podcasts, which are just a fancy way of saying I took these videos that are live shows, which are then saved on YouTube. Then I download them and upload them. Don't know why I have to do that, but you got to download them and upload them to Spotify as a podcast. And then they become podcasts instead of just recorded live shows. But those are on Spotify and Google Podcasts. Both of those places. But anyway, I listen to them. I play my own stuff. Most of the time I listen to them. But, I already know how it ends. So, why bother, right? So, I just thought of something. I switched back to OBS Studio just to see, because I kind of liked it. And I'd been using StreamYard, and I'd having all that trouble with the router. And so I thought, well, one of the reasons I got a new video card was to see if I could go back to OBS. Anyway, so I was trying to find my chat. That was why I hesitated there for just a minute, was because I was trying to find the little button that said bring up my chat. Because I closed my YouTube out, I wouldn't be able to see the chat. So I went on Spotify while I was mowing and doing all that other kind of stuff, bush hogging and that kind of junk. And I said, free audiobooks. Because I'm frugal. And it found me some. And what's strange is, on the audiobooks like that, I have to download the book to the phone and then listen to it. I don't know why I won't stream it. So I went through the free ones and I picked some. And one of the ones I picked was the Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And hey, Cleo, I didn't dawn on me at the time, and later today at work it did, because they said, hey, that's a movie. And I said, oh, really? And they said, yeah, what's his name played the part. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Robert Redford. Anyway, Yeah, it wasn't Robert Bradford either, or Robert Redford. Uh, Brad Pitt. Yeah, that was it. Brad Pitt. So when I started listening to the story, uh, I realized that I had heard about the story and I'd heard about the movie, but I'd never read it. And come to find out, it's a short story written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So I'm looking it up here on Wikipedia. It first was published in Collier's magazine on May 27th, 1922. Like I said, it was a short story. And probably one of the reasons that I picked to listen to it because it was only an hour and so long. Some of the books I thought were interesting were like 7 hours. I didn't have that time. I just wanted to listen to it. Then you can listen to music, other stuff along the way. Anywho, so that was the Collier is a national weekly back in the day, apparently in 1922. Cover was illustrated by James Montgomery Flagg, but it was just of a girl looking over her shoulder with a little hat on. So I thought, well, F. Scott Fitzgerald, that's kind of cool. Curious case, might be something interesting. And so I listened to it, and it was only a few chapters long. And I haven't listened to many audiobooks. Off Spotify, I've listened to 3. The other one I listened to that day was, I think, The Time Traveler by that other guy. Not Ernest Hemingway. Time Traveler by Orson Welles. Orson Welles, I think. Is that right? Maybe. But anyway, I listened to that one, which there again, it was only a couple hours long. Let's see if I'm right on that. I'm not as quick as Robert. Let's see, Robert's got to look it up and then tell me, and then there's going to be a delay. So I beat him. Wikipedia. Let's see what it says. Time Traveler. Written by. Oh, really? Come on. H.G. Wells. So not Orson. Ideal Time Machine was popularized by H.G. Wells, 1895. The Time Machine. Oh, okay. Time Travel. The Time Machine. H.G. Wells. So, I listened to that, but that wasn't the one I was going to review. The reason I wanted to review The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. To be honest with you, I wasn't impressed. I mean, it's kind of a fantastical story, to say the least. But I have a very literal mind. I guess maybe a way of describing it. So, Benjamin Button, his father, it starts out at the book, takes place in Baltimore in 1860, and I'm trying to remember what his dad's name was. How come it doesn't give me the name? See, I'm not a very good book reviewer. A lot of the stuff goes in one ear and out the other. But the plot is there. So his father rushes into the hospital. He sees the doctor coming out. This is back in the day, when the doctors, would come to your house and different things like that. But apparently it was becoming vogue to have babies not at home but in hospital. So apparently Mr. Button was into dry goods. and he was quite wealthy in dry goods. And that's basically hardware store, in what I understand. Nails and hammers and, those kind of things. Dry goods. And so he had the money, and so his wife was going to give birth in a hospital. So anyway, he gets flack from the doctor, he gets flack from the nurse, and he goes up. And in the story, and these are, I'll read when I was listening to it, these things are running through my head. And he sees the baby, his newborn baby, in a crib, and it's a 70-year-old man. Had to stop the tractor. That's just all the things going through my head at the time. I would never have gotten past it. I know the book is fiction, and I know it's supposed to be a tall tale. And I can read science fiction. I can read the craziest things, you know. But I can't. Sometimes I can't overlook the silliness of something like that, of something that's just absolutely absurd. That a woman, now let's just picture this, and this is what goes through my mind. And I guess it's not really a book review as much as it is me making fun of the book or the story. The book was entertaining because it was written back in the time where the language that was used, the way the sentences are structured, the words that are used, is interesting in of itself, no matter what the story is. So, the fact that the story is written so long ago about something as mundane, I guess, well, back then maybe it wasn't as mundane. Having babies was very risky. But it told the story of a rich man who desperately wanted to have a child, a boy particularly, to carry on the name and all that kind of good stuff. And what does he get? He gets a 70-year-old man, and that's the way it's described. The man is in a crib with his feet hanging over the edge, and he's sitting into it. If you can picture, I'm assuming a small framed, but still a full-grown man with a long beard and shaggy hair in, the baby room. Nursery, thank you very much. In the nursery, where all the newborn babies are. And something's going on. Close. I don't know what happened to Clell, and I don't know what happened to Robert. Clell said howdy. Robert said hi. Then Robert says close. I don't know what happened there. Where'd everybody go? All the participants dropped off. I hope it hasn't crashed. Let's see. Does it still say I'm live? It still says I'm live. My internet hasn't crashed. I still see internet access. Oh, Clell says here. All right. So, he's in the nursery. His feet are hanging over the crib. He's leaned into the thing. He doesn't have a stitch of clothes on. And they've given him a blanket. But the dude can talk. He goes, "Hello, Father." He's a pretty much fully functional 70-year-old man. Okay. Let's go into how does a full-grown woman give birth to a full-grown man? Doesn't happen. Forget the age of this man. Forget everything else. Do they expect you to believe that a woman gave birth naturally? Well, it doesn't matter if it's cesarean or not. A full-grown man. There you have it. First absurdity. First absurdity. Robert says it's a miracle. It's not. It might be a miracle. But they didn't even question that part of it. See, that's part of the thing that rolls around in my brain. In the book, it talks about this has never happened before, then that's it. They don't try to explain it in the least. The man never goes to see his wife in the hospital. He never, questions, listen, woman, how did this ever happen? Is this even my 70-year-old man? Is it the milkman 70-year-old man? Is it the mailman 70-year-old man? What's the story behind this? Robert says he's never finished the movie. The book was probably shorter than the movie, so listen to it. It's free on Spotify. But the only downside is I have to download it to the phone, then listen to it. Then you have to find it and delete it off the phone. Mine's filled up with junk already. So he thinks they're pulling his leg. And they said, no, now you got to get this baby out of here because he's ruining our reputation. And they still insist that he's a baby. And that's the way the book happens. His father is going to take the baby home. And he has to go out and find baby clothes because the blanket that they give him is not big enough to cover his butt. Because he's not a baby, he's a full-grown man. Even though he might be small in stature and 70 years old. But he carries on a conversation. He doesn't, I guess, have the life knowledge of a 70-year-old man because later it talks about how he sneaks down through the servants' stairs and grabs encyclopedias and then takes them back up to his room, his nursery, and reading them while he smokes his father's cigars. And he's only like 5 or 6 hours old at this point while he's in the hospital. But his dad insists on treating him like a baby. So he buys him man-sized baby clothes. He buys him baby toys. He makes him play with babies. Who lets their 2-month-old go have a play date with a rich man's 70-year-old 2-month-old baby? These are the kind of things that just drove me insane while I was reading this thing, or listening to this thing. All these things are going through my head. It's like, okay, so you have a baby, and your friend from the country club has a baby. Maybe one's older or the other. But your baby's a grown man. Why treat it like a baby? He was insistent that this was a baby. He was going to treat it like a baby, even though it walked and talked and smoked and read encyclopedias, And the funny thing is that Benjamin Button played with the toys. He played with the babies. And he, tried to act like a baby. They even had him a nurse. So it was crazy. And of course, the premise of the story, as he gets older in this life, he physically gets younger. So, he starts out in his 70s. And then by chronological age, when he's a teenager, right, he notices that he doesn't have to color his hair as much. And people are, instead of thinking he's 70, they're thinking he's like 60 or 55 or something like that. Yeah, Robert says he basically runs out of time. So he's born old and is getting younger. And the story progresses through that because, now that he's getting younger, his father's getting older, and they're having more in common because now instead of, you know, uh, making him play with toys and all those kind of things like an infant, you know, uh, when he's 12 and 13, he's trying to send him to high school. And then he tries to send him to college, and he gets run out of Yale, I think, because they think he's conning him, because he looks like he's in his 50s, but he says he's 18. So he goes to Harvard, and he graduates Harvard. I don't know how. He graduates Harvard. That's how smart this man is. But he's only, theoretically, 18 years old. But now he looks like a 50-year-old. So him and his dad go out and party together. His dad introduces him to this 20-year-old debutante kind of girl. Well, he ends up marrying this girl. And I'm skipping a bunch of the stuff in between. So he marries this girl that's much younger, but he doesn't tell her that, hey, you know what, I'm getting younger. As you get older, I'm getting younger. And, when he was first born, he was 70-year-old, there was a big scandal in the newspaper. Well, of course, like everything else, it goes away. And then the Civil War happens. And Benjamin starts helping his dad in the dry goods business. And they're making big money. And so, he's getting younger. So he starts out, he goes to Harvard, he takes over the business. He marries this real pretty young debutante girl. And she says she likes older men because they don't drink as much and they don't go around partying as much. And, it's the perfect match. Except she gets older as he gets younger. And, at this point, they're kind of, in sync. But of course, as he starts getting younger and more vibrant and more energetic, because he's reversing in, age, he's aging in reverse, she's getting more lethargic. So it ends up, he goes to Harvard, he plays football. See, he was run out of Yale. He plays football at Harvard, whips Yale's butt. He does really well in the store. He has a kid that's a normal kid, apparently normal, born as a baby, an infant, right? Not like himself. And he keeps getting younger and more energetic. He's very wealthy. So what was it? The French and Indian, what war came up? There was a war came up. And so, he's young and his chronological age is about the same as his looking age. So he joins and he's got a college degree. He goes through the ranks quickly. He gets wounded charging up a hill. He's the hero. He comes home. He's even more dashing and handsome now, because he's been gone 3 years and he's younger than when he left. And he comes home and his wife is, in her 40s and he's now in his 30s. So he starts partying more. He gets out with younger girls and all this other stuff, and he keeps getting younger. And so he gets bored. And so he goes back to college, and a second time. And then when he's in college, he starts looking like he should be in high school. And he gets dumber. Okay, because he's losing all of the, apparently, not only physically is he, going backwards, he's mentally, he doesn't, he already has a college degree, right? From when he was in his 60s, but he was really 18 chronologically. And he went and graduated Harvard. I think that's the way, or Yale, one of those. Yeah, but he can't, he's sent home, yeah. So, he graduated Harvard. And so he goes back to Yale the second time. And he's having a hard time. And he barely graduates college because now he's, 16 physically, chronologically, and he's getting dumber. Right? So all these things he learned, apparently, he's losing them. So then he wants to go to high school. By this time, he's living with his son because his wife is in Italy. Just pretty much, gave up on him because she's probably in her 60s. And so he's living with his son. And his son makes him start calling him uncle because he's getting so young. And the son acts like it's his dad's fault. They never talk about, Dad, you ought to go see a doctor because, you're shrinking, you're getting stupid, and you're looking younger and younger all the time. And in the book, it makes mention of him thinking about, well, this is kind of weird. I'm getting younger. What, how's this going to work? And so he gets into high school. Well, he enters high school as like a freshman, but as you start getting towards his senior year, he's junior high size. So they're kicking his butt. So then he thinks, well, I ought to go to junior high. By the time he's in junior high, he's in elementary. And so he keeps, trying to get into these things, and he's getting dumber and dumber. And so they hire a nanny, and she's taking care of him. And they are now bringing over kids. See, when he was 70, his dad made him play with infants and small children because he swore up and down, he's only 5. He's going to play with 5-year-olds, even though physically he was, in his 70s. So now he's regressing. So he's really playing with 5-year-olds. And he is 5-year-old. And it talks about how he likes, the different paper colors and putting them together and making, crafts and different things like that. And then as the 5-year-olds turn 6, he turns 4. As they turn 7, he turns 3. So the nanny just never asks any questions. She keeps taking care of him. And eventually, they're talking about what he's thinking. He's thinking, oh, look at the pretty lights. And then he's thinking, oh, the warm milk and the soft food is so good. And then he's thinking, oh, well, look at those little faces hanging over me. And then, oh, look at I feel so warm and I feel so cozy and somebody's cuddling me. And then the only thing he thinks about is when's my next meal, the food. And then I guess he dies. He gets unborn. Because then they just say, well, he basically stops thinking. He gets unborn. Like I said, it was an interesting tale. It was interesting that, it was written. The guy that was reading it was a good reader. It's just, I just kept going over in my head, come on, man. How, you don't even, it's like skipping a rock across a lake. There's so much stuff that you don't even touch on. You just across the lake. And it drove me crazy. Could you tell? It just, because I want explanations, man. I want to know, why didn't they send him off when he was 70 and figure out, how does a grown woman have a grown man as a child? She should be dead. Right? It's like the alien bursting out of her chest. That don't happen. It just doesn't happen. Did it ruin it for me? Not really. It makes me want to go, nobody thought that was odd. Well, they did in the newspaper, in the Baltimore newspaper, they thought it was very strange. But like I said, it was the news of the day for, he's rich, he has this. They accepted the fact that it was a baby. The nurses and all the doctors said, "This is your baby. This is no joke. This is your baby. Take him out of here because he's not a baby. But he's your baby. But take him out of here because he's not a baby. He's a grown man." But then it mentioned in the book that the Civil War came along and there was other things in Baltimore, and it was just like, go on to something else. And then it wasn't, he wasn't really healthy. He was healthy in a way, but he was old and, like decrepit. But I mean, he was 70 years old, and it described him, not needing. I don't think he needed a cane, but he was. He went down the stairs and he could read and apparently write and do all those kind of things and smoke his dad's cigars, which he threatened to spank him for doing, and then said, "No, can't do that." He made him dye his hair and shave his mustaches and all that stuff to try to make him look younger, and made him wear baby clothes. He had them custom made, is what I recall. And so, but yeah, then they thought it was a big deal when the young debutante, the 20-year-old, and he looked 50, became engaged. And his dad was so mad at that, he published Benjamin's birth certificate showing how chronologically how old he was, even though he looked 50. He was like in his 20s chronologically. And this is, when he was old man meeting young time. He was all coming together to be that little window when he was actually chronologically the same age as he looked. So that was a big deal in the book. And then, of course, like everything else, something else come along, and that story went away. And then when they had babies and he started looking younger, they became, just another couple, rich couple in Baltimore that was doing well. And, when he went off to war, he came back a hero. So he was in the spotlight then because, he became a captain and all that. Oh, and I forgot. So I think it was when World War II or One came about. He was like 16. This is when he was getting dumber. He was 16. He was wanting to enlist. But of course, his looks and physically he was 16, even though in chronological ages he was in his 60s probably at that time. And he wanted to join the army to go fight again because he had been, a well-to-do officer, a brave officer. And so they sent out letters, and he got a letter from whatever he was in, the Army or the Navy, whatever it was he was in before, and said, because we're entering this war, we're recalling a lot of the upper staff, and we need you to come back and take over a battalion or whatever it was that he was supposed to be taking over. And he said, "Oh, this is my time." So he's 16. He goes to a tailor and convinces the tailor, because he's the son of a rich kid. His son was rich, and he played it up like my dad will pay the bill. But he went in and had a uniform made, and they were going to make him a general. So he got somebody to make him in general insignia. He took his letter and he went to the fort or base, army base that he was supposed to go to, and he tried to get the sentry to let him in, and this colonel comes up on a horse. This is crazy. But a colonel comes up to him on a horse and goes, "Kid, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm no kid. Give me that horse. I'm a general." And so, "Let me see your orders." So he gives him the orders. He looks at him. He looks down at the kid and he goes, "You better come with me, son." And the guy goes, he said he was marching in there like, "Man, yeah, I'm finally getting into this place. You wait. The guy that gave me grief at the gate, he's really going to get his." Well, they didn't believe him. "Where did you get the letter?" "Well, it was mailed to me." "Oh, bull crap. Who do we contact?" So he gave him his son's number, and his son comes in, and they said, "You better take your kid and get him out of here and get him out of that general's uniform. This is crazy." And so he came and got him and took him back home. And that's when he started getting younger and trying to get into high school and all that stuff. But, that was pretty funny. But he thought he could go and be Benjamin, Button, the well-to-do army captain, general, whatever, as a 16-year-old boy. And he just, nobody believed it. And so, but, like I said, it just skipped the stone. It was just, I'm sure, an entertaining story. But I needed more out of it. I just couldn't believe that they would tell a story and make you even pass it off. Just forget about the fact that he's 70-year-old and he's a full-grown man and he's only been born 6 hours. It never said he started out as a 7-pound baby and then just went man in 6 hours. No, he was supposedly born like that. It didn't kill the wife. It didn't make even mention to the wife. He never even saw his wife. He never went into the room and said, "Are you okay? How did this happen? Are they lying to us?" He went straight from the hospital, nursery. The nurse told him, "You need to get this thing out of here." He goes, "What am I going to put?" She goes, "Go buy him clothes." So he goes down and buys him some kind of outfit, brings it back. They shave him, cut his hair, dye his hair, do all this stuff. They put him in his clothes and walk him out of the hospital as a baby, as a boy, whatever. It skipped over the fact about his wife, and they never really even mentioned his wife. It's just, I don't. I guess I've got to see the movie. But shit, if the book tore me up this much about it, the movie's just going to send me over the edge. I don't even think I want to watch the movie with myself because I'd be going, "Oh, come on. Well, what about this? What about that? And how are they going to explain that?" It just was very astounded by the story. So, Robert, I'm pretty sure you've never read it. Clay, did you ever read it, or have you seen the movie? I mean, I tried to give it a chance. I mean, I saw some of what I saw when I looked it up to get when the book was written and all that kind of stuff. It had pictures, I guess, of the movie and some of right, and it didn't look like. Let's see, images. I'm looking at these. Okay, so maybe, Robert, did the story, if you remember, the movie, did the movie start out with Benjamin being the size of an infant? Because what I'm seeing here, let me see if I can bring this up. I know I can. Look at that. Shoot, yeah. All right, so this picture, can you see my mouse? Yeah, this one here. This looks like an infant, old man infant. So maybe they tried, in the movie, tried to address some of the shortcomings of the book. But in the book, he was just hours after the kid was born, they had him in the nursery, and he was a full-grown man. So looks like in the movie, maybe they tried to account for some of that. All right, so here he is dancing, and I think this lady plays his nanny, his baby nurse. And see, in the book, he talked about his dad, when he brought him home from the hospital as an infant, would buy him kids' toys, and he talked about lead soldiers. So these look like little army men made of lead. Maybe he chewed on them. That's what made him younger. So I'm guessing that, who is this actress? This actress here is his wife, and she will grow older as he grows younger. And I think that's what this is here. It looks like in this area he's younger and she's older, maybe. But maybe the movie did try to account for some of those questions that I have. It's like, come on, man. How does that even happen? You know, and how did he get to be so smart? In a way, like I said, in the book, he already knew how to talk and walk, and knew who his father was and how to call him dad and father, and you better get me out of here and get me some clothes because this blanket ain't big enough to cover me. So he already was born fully cognizant and knew, but he liked to read encyclopedias, so which that told me he didn't have a lot of book knowledge, but yet he went and graduated Harvard. So he's very smart. But then as he got younger, he got dumber. It was almost, which didn't make sense either. Because he learned those things. It was, in some ways, the book made it seem like when he was getting younger, he was losing the knowledge that he gained when he was in his 60s, whenever he graduated Harvard. But yet, he could still remember and knew that he was a soldier, he was good at it, he was heroic, he knew he wanted to go back to it. The only reason he got out of the service was because his business needed attention. He didn't really want to go home because he was kind of fed up with his wife, because she was getting old and he was young and she wanted to stay home. He wanted to go out and party, and he was getting, more virile and more athletic as he got older. because his body was getting younger. But that was kind of counter to, you know, him losing book knowledge, but yet he knew that because, he could barely graduate Harvard. The second time he went, Yale, the second time he went to college, because he was getting younger and he was getting dumber. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to watch the movie just to see how crazy it drives me. But anyway, so Robert McClell, was this a book review or a book bitch session? Book bitch session? Which I think it probably was more of a bitching session about the book. My complaints about it. But isn't that truly a review? What you really think about the book or the story? It wasn't. It was a short story, and it was written a long time ago. And I know it was meant to be, a book bash. Oh, the book bash. So yeah, but this is I treat it like I treat my Facebook ads. Right? When I do those Facebook reviews, the Facebook ad reviews, or Craigslist, or LinkedIn, whatever the job thing, it's just like, come on, people. Don't say I know what I've got. Don't lowball me. It's rare. I know what I've got. Don't lowball me. Don't send me those. Is it still available? Just come see it. I ain't got time to type your description. That's kind of the way I felt about this book. It was like, come on, people. You want me to believe a lady had a full-grown man and he was born and didn't kill her when she was like 3 months pregnant and he was getting to be the size of her, whole body, whatever. So, I don't know. That big old book drove me crazy. I'm glad I listened to it because, I probably wouldn't have read it. But I was listening to it. I was doing lots of other things. As you can tell, I halfway paid attention and then halfway didn't pay attention. So, anyway. Well, let's see. In the end, it's fictional adventure like Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So, I did do a show on that. When I said I had questions about wizardry, go back and look at that one because it was not quite as bashing as this one. But still, yeah, there was holes in that story too. I find the holes in all kinds of stories. But anyway, but I liked Harry Potter. I liked all the books. I've read them a couple of times. My kids have read them, a half a dozen each. We watched all the movies. I guess in a way, I like it a lot better, and therefore I'm more willing to put up with some of the. And they're not gaping holes, but they are holes in the in the book, in the Harry Potter, like I get started on another rampage. Why did they have Ron's mother? Why does she have dishes washing in the pan? Why doesn't she just go poof, dishes clean and they're just done? But they're washing in the pan. Why do they do some things physically when they could just do them, through magic? I don't know. Anyway, all right, 49 minutes. long enough to listen to me whine and moan about that book. But I'll probably have to do another one. Not all the time. So Clay, I think, and Robert, tell your mom, I think Survivor's starting next week. So I haven't decided. I haven't decided if I'm going to do another Thursday night Survivor review. I mean, I didn't mind doing it. And it's kind of the same thing, just a bash bitch session about, who did this and who did that and why would you do that. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'd do the whole thing again. Uh, what do you guys think? Should I do the Survivor thing again, or just throw a few in there every once in a while, maybe every other week, or something like that? Kind of just hit the highlights of a couple of shows instead of doing one every week. I don't know. Let me know if you're listening out there, watching it out there, YouTube. Leave me a comment. If you watched the old last season Survivor recaps I did every Thursday night, let me know if you want to see them again or if you don't. But I'm still at 100 subscribers, I'm pretty sure, which is awesome. I appreciate everybody, talking somebody into subscribing. Get more people to subscribe, watch the videos, leave me a comment, like the videos, because I think that would really help YouTube pick me up, because I've done one of the things YouTube wants is reliability or consistency, which pretty much done. But I don't think the videos, once they're out there to be viewed, they're getting 6, 7, 8 watches, but I don't get any likes or any comments. So if we could convince people to give me likes and comments and things, I think that would, it couldn't hurt, right? Couldn't hurt. But appreciate you guys coming, and as always, like, subscribe, leave me comments, and keep coming back. So I hope the video, I'm going to look at this one because, like I said, I did it on OBS Studio this time. Hope the sound and picture was good. There's things I like about this. There's things I like about StreamYard. But anyway, appreciate it. And let me find the button to stop it. There it is. All right.